Directors for the library. First on our list are citizens' comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? I do not see anyone. Sean, do we have any that have come in via email
Nope.
or written?
We have no written or email comments from the public this month.
Okay. Alrighty then. I don't really have anything other than Brandy Butcher, one of our members, sent her apologies that she's had a family emergency that she needs to see to this afternoon, and she does send her apologies for not making it here, but sometimes life happens and we just have to roll with it. I've not heard from any other members who've expressed their apologies, so I'm hoping that they are on their way and we can continue on. Do we have any other members of the board who are present who would like to address the public or their fellow board members? Alrighty. That leads us to the development department. So friends, we have a written report presented by Courtney Ramlow. Maybe?
And we have
Good afternoon. Surprise, not Courtney Ramlow. I am Shanta Dickerson, Friends Operations Manager, and Ms. Ramlow could not be with us this afternoon, so I am filling in for her. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the board, and Commissioner Hanslick, and Mr. Casserly for this time to report on Friends progress on behalf of our executive committee. There are 4 subjects in our report today, which detail activities of July 2021, recognition from Friends of Kansas Libraries, automated materials handling, very exciting, Friends Manager, me, on the conference circuit in internet sales. First, recognition from Friends of Kansas Libraries. They are also known as Focal, a wonderful organization. Helps us keep in touch with our peers across the state of Kansas. They have recognized our organization as the Outstanding Friends Group of the Year. And that's an award that we received for work done in 2020. The award itself received in 2021. And what a wonderful time with National Friends of Libraries Week, just a little more than a month out, to just take a pause and celebrate a little bit what we did accomplish. Why did we get that award? To start, we researched and developed a reopening plan, which allowed staff and volunteers to return to work as safely as possible within 2 months rather of the pandemic shutdown. We were able to get back up and running pretty quickly. We acquired donated laptops from some wonderful supporters of the Friends, which accommodated remote and hybrid work for all of our staff. Through the years 20 and 21, we received over $75,000 in operational grants from CARES Act funds. The most recent of that being the second draw PPP loan, which is fully forgiven in the amount of $23,420. We received that letter from the Small Business Administration in August. So a fully forgiven PPP loan in effect becomes an operations grant. So we roll that into that total. Online sales division increased significantly. And we launched our new website, which makes it so much easier for local customers to support the library through e-commerce. So if you don't already have it bookmarked, take a moment to visit friendsofjcl.org. And in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little yellow box that says shop. Click that, and that you can just get there anytime. Shop at 3 a.m. if you want. Friends worked in cooperation with Johnson County Library and the Johnson County Library Foundation staff on a business plan. A consolidation proposal was made for a vacant library building. And throughout the pandemic, we kept staff fully paid and employed. Our hours and modest salaries were not cut in order to make ends meet. And in fact, the decision was made to set a minimum wage of $15 per hour for all staff. And I am personally so proud of the fact that we were able to do that. I believe strongly you invest in your people and they take care of you, and that has absolutely proven true as we've navigated life from that point forward. And so for these and so many other reasons, we are proud to be your friends. Now, jumping into what's going on currently, we are preparing the Friends headquarters for automated materials handling, also known as a sorter. We are already referring to it as the machine. It's slated for installation the week of October 5th. Overhaul and reconfiguration of Pine Ridge headquarters is underway. And additionally, we're taking action on some improvements that were laid out in the business plan that y'all have seen so many times, I know. One of those things being just that the sort to sell facility, there's so many reasons that is just where we need to be. And so we're working on that here in the headquarters, just getting ready for that. And we would like to have that ready by holiday season. I will be attending the Kansas Library Association's 2021 conference. I've been invited to sit on a panel and participate in a Friends-focused breakout session the afternoon of Wednesday, 27th. And not to brag too much, but we are influential, and while we are inspiring to our peers, I find inspiration in so many great ideas. Friends organizations in our region are just absolutely wonderful organizations. We collaborate and share ideas, and just such a great group of people. And again, Friends of Kansas Library is just wonderful in providing these opportunities. They're the folks who extended the invitation and have arranged that breakout session. So very looking forward to that. And lastly, internet sales. Our internet sales report is changing. Our internet sales and office manager, William Mitchell, who's been with us for a little over a couple of months now, is examining our processes to improve efficiency and save money. He has a data analysis background. He brings that to the table, and it's showing right away. And he looks at status of inventory orders in July, are reported, how those numbers compare historically. Our new reports are lengthier, and they testify to the complexity of managing a larger volume of sales activity. So those reports include monthly net sales per market, inventory by source, whether items that are being sold and listed for ex-library donations. We're looking at sales versus postage costs and additional costs, process improvements as well. For July, net sales of all 5 of our internet and marketplaces reached over $15,000. The majority of earnings came from Amazon, with eBay coming in second. Now, our new format may not always include the lighthearted and jaunty news of odd titles sold, but we'll be better able to report to you our improved performance, and we hope eventually, our goal really, eventually, into increased levels of support for Johnson County Library. So lastly, I'll remind all of our listeners that you may join or renew your Friends of Johnson County Library membership at friendsofjcl.org. So this concludes my report, and I again thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you. Does anybody have any question for the Friends? Thank you for all of your hard work and for your report. Okay, Miss Stephanie.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stephanie Stolzheimer, and I am delighted to report on behalf of the foundation. First up is I want to report back on a bequest that we received. So the foundation has an organization, a sub-organization, the 1952 Society. This is our planned giving initiative. And when we do get a gift, it is heartwarming and impactful. And one of our patrons, James DeBerry, was a very big patron of Cedar Row. and he left $20,000 to the Cedar Row branch. And when he passed away last year, we knew that his intention was to do something cool out at Cedar Row. And we're so fortunate that we were able to take those funds and go shopping and purchase some new furniture, especially in the children's area. So we plan to have a reception in October and invite his immediate family and celebrate this lovely gift and this wonderful addition to the Cedar Row branch. The next thing on our mind is Library Lets Loose. I feel like I report on this all the time, and it is here. We're about a week away from setting up and having Library Lets Loose. It is a free virtual event, and just go to libraryletsloose.org to register. It'll be broadcast via Zoom with our production partner, Park University. And we've had such great support from the community financially. We are absolutely thrilled and excited to pull the trigger on this next week. We're also doing tours of the Central Resource Library. So I think we have tours tomorrow. If anybody can come, please come. We have about, I don't know, maybe about 15 people signed up. It's really for elected officials, VIPs, donors, and so we're looking forward to a tour tomorrow at 3:30. So if you want to come, let me know. And then for grants, as you know, we apply for grants from private foundations and corporations year-round. We recently received additional funding for the Central Resource Library Kids area. There's a Burgeon unit. It's an interactive kids unit. It's just really cool. I've announced earlier that the Rainier Family Foundation donated $15,000. The foundation matched that 15, and we've received another $7,000 from the John W. and FEE Spies Foundation. So that continues to get some support from the community, and we're very excited for that. And then as we head into the fall, the annual appeal is always a big part of what every not-for-profit does. So we will head into year-end fundraising for the library. So that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you,
Thank you all
Stephanie.
so very much.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you to everybody at the foundation who continues to support our mission. Commissioner Hanslick, what news from county?
Well,
And what have you been reading?
thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. A number of things I wanted to point out. First of all, that last week, can you hear me? Okay. Last week, the County Commission passed the 2022 budget with a $250,000 levy decrease. And I know that I think Mr. Logan's going to be talking a little bit more about the library budget. So we got that done for the year. We also last week endorsed a climate action plan. It's the Kansas City Regional Climate Action Plan, and it provides a voluntary framework for local governments and entities around the community to follow to try to reach carbon neutral emissions by 2050. And there's a lot of very cool ideas in it. I think what appeals to me so much about it is that it looks at the impact on our vulnerable populations of things like floods, droughts, and severe heat occurrences that we've had all those things this year. And, for example, older folks that live in a home that may not have air conditioning, how do we help those folks? How do we help people better weatherize their homes? How do we look at stormwater situations to prevent flooding? So those are all the kinds of things that are in the Climate Action Plan. And it's kind of a cafeteria style plan because not every community is the same. What may work up in Smithville may not work in Gardner. And so it's a variety of ideas and opportunities for various cities and counties to utilize to help us face the climate changes that we're already experiencing. This morning we had a wonderful night ceremony recognizing the 20th anniversary of 911. Some of the folks in here might be a little young to really remember it, but for those of us who do, it was a huge impact on our lives, and it was a beautiful ceremony. If you have a chance to go down by the county administration building, students from Olathe West have placed 2,977 flags in the lawn to represent the 2,977 people who died that day both at the World Trade Centers, but also in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon. And it's really quite a moving sight if you have a chance to go down there. And then I mentioned this last month, but I mentioned it again because, and actually I think that was something I wanted to ask. There was an error I saw in the minutes. I'd made a comment about the Johnson County Charter Commission, and it's actually next Monday, September 13th, not August 13th, that the Charter Commission is holding a public hearing to take public input on any changes that people would like to see or recommend in the county charter, or no changes. You can participate either by Zoom or you can come in person. And if you just Google Johnson County Charter Commission, it'll take you to the website with more information. And I'm looking forward, Stephanie, I'm going on the tour tomorrow. Although I'm often over at the Central Resource Library to pick up my holds. But looking forward to seeing behind the curtain what's going on. And speaking of that, picked this up the other day. I've just started it, but I actually saw this. Actually, I didn't get it at Central Resource. I got it at Oak Park, now that I'm remembering. It was actually on a display. And it's a book by Pulitzer Prize winner Doris Kearns Goodwin, and it's called Leadership in Turbulent Times. And it looks at Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, and Lyndon B. Johnson, and how they dealt with some major difficulties during their time as president. So I thought that might be an appropriate, inspiring book to read at this time. And that's my report. If you have any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Anyone have any questions?
The only question I had, the Charter Commission, you said Monday the 13th. Do you know what time that is?
I can tell you here in one moment.
And speakers are available via Zoom, correct?
Yes, you can sign up. You have to sign up in advance for that. Let's see here. Do you know, Joe, what time that starts?
I thought it was either 5:30 or 6.
That's what I was thinking. I
Yeah.
think it's 5:30.
I think it's 5:30 also,
Yeah.
from memory.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, anyone else? Thank you very much. Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andrew Logan, Board Counsel. Sean has asked that I speak about two matters that are going to come up later in the meeting. The first is a mask update on city mask mandates that is in Sean's updates, and then discussing the revenue neutral rate resolution that you all will be considering in old business. First on masks, just talking a little bit about city mask mandates. There are two cities in Johnson County with mask mandates that affect two library branch facilities. That's Prairie Village with Corinth and Roland Park with the Cedar Row branch. So since our last meeting, both of those cities have adopted requirements that persons in public spaces wear masks. They are different to some degree, the resolutions and ordinances that were adopted by the cities. They both went into effect on August 24. Prairie Village will expire on the 30th of September, and Roland Park goes until, I believe it's October 19. Prairie Village does include an exemption for government buildings that are not operated by the city of Prairie Village, so that is a distinction between the two. I think Sean may discuss that a little bit more in his update, but staff is essentially complying with those requirements in terms of enforcement, and they have the authority to go ahead and do that to maintain good relations and good partnership with these cities with whom the library does have good relations with and works with. So I think that's it on masks, unless there are any questions. Okay. So on the resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate, I think it's important to describe what this is, why you're considering this tonight, and sort of explain what the revenue neutral rate is as best as I can. This comes about as a result of two pieces of legislation that were passed, or a piece of legislation that was passed by the Kansas legislature this year, Senate Bill 13 and House Bill 2104. This is a change from past years. We've already gone through the budget process, but this is essentially a process that requires any governmental body to pass an authorization or a resolution indicating that there's an intent to exceed what is defined as the revenue neutral rate in that law. So it is separate from the budget process, but it comes about as a result of the budget and an intention to exceed that amount. And the revenue neutral rate is defined in the law basically as a tax rate for the current year that would generate the same property tax revenue as levied from the previous year. You're using the current tax's total assessed valuation. So to try and break that down a little bit, this is not a tax increase that you would be authorizing or an increase in the mill levy. It would essentially be as a result of the property tax assessed valuation. It went up this year. So as a result, in order to capture those dollars for budget purposes, that would be an increase essentially in the revenue neutral rate. So as a result of the property tax or the property valuation assessment going up, the revenue neutral rate would be based on last year's assessment numbers, a lower amount, 3.70 or 3.73 mils would be the amount. In order to, and then based on the property assessment, to capture those dollars, it's technically a mill levy of 3.896 mils. Okay, so that would be in excess of our revenue neutral rate, which is the 3.7 number. So in order to capture that increase in assessment dollars and tax dollars, there needs to be a resolution from the issuing body to capture those dollars. The Board of County Commissioners considered this on August 23 and passed a resolution authorizing an amount in excess of the revenue neutral rate. This group is now going to be asked to consider the same tonight. It's not a conflicting resolution in any way. Both bodies, basically for sake of clarity, are going to have to issue a resolution under that new law in order for that to go into effect. So it's a very kind of complex structure in terms of gauging the assessed valuation versus the year prior. But again, this is not a tax increase that you would be authorizing. It's really just authorizing capture of those dollars that are more than last year's as a result of the increase in the property valuations. And I think if Joe Connor can speak,
I just want to make one clarification.
please.
It's the reappraisal of the assessed valuation plus new growth.
Okay,
That's part of the additional revenue that's generated through valuation. So I just want to make sure to add that
great.
it's not just reappraisal.
Thank you, Joe. So if there are any other questions I can answer about that, I'd be happy to.
Any questions? Basically, what this is we're just publicly acknowledging that we're collecting more money than we did before but we're not increasing anything, that this isn't about us changing policy, any numbers. This is really just a public acknowledgement that valuations are higher and we're going to have more money.
Yes, that's
It really is.
that's a good way of putting it. Yes,
Okay,
I think that's
thank you.
accurate.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, real quick. So what's our public acknowledgement? I think on the resolutions, we just have to put it on the website, so we have to send all the letters.
So under the law, there was a requirement that there be a public meeting and that it be basically published for all Johnson County residents. So the BOCC held its public meeting on the 23rd, but prior to that, there was publication in one of the newspapers. I think it was the Olathe News.
Yeah.
And then we also had it on our website. The county had it on the county website. So it's been available for the public to see.
Because I think at one time we were talking about it was going to have to be a letter sent out. So did that change? Is that correct?
So there was notice given, and I'm not sure if there was a mailer sent out. I believe there
I think that may have been
state,
I think that's in the future.
yeah.
We can verify that for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
It
there
seemed
was,
like we were talking about the extra cost from printing out letters, but when I was reading the resolution that we're voting on tonight,
and there was concern about, I think when this was still being considered by the legislature, what the impact to individual units of government, what the impact would be, whether or not there'd be able to be some form of collaboration between governmental units. And here in the county, that is possible, and we're able to work together to some degree to do that, to maybe offset some of those costs.
good.
Any other questions about the legal parts of this? All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Logan. Sean?
Thank you. I'll be doing the financial report today as David is unable to be here. So as of the end of July, the library has collected approximately $37.9 million in revenue, which is approximately 91%. The number from a percentage standpoint is close to where the library would expect to be at this point in time. The library has expenses, including collection encumbrances, of approximately $22 million, which is about 53% of the entire budget. Given that the library is at 58% of the way through the year, the expenditure budget looks in line where it should be at this time of year. Talking a little about this, again, just acknowledging the two meetings, the public meeting that the BOCC did for public comment on the 23rd, and then their adoption of the budget. The commission did roll back. The budget that they adopted did come with a $250,000 rollback, but from the library and both park districts were approved with a constant mill rate. So our revenue has not changed for the library. The final vote on the budget was 5-2, just for the record. The final budget for the 2022 year for the library, all funds totals around $884,029. $29 million approximately is in operations, about $250,000 is in grants, and $3.9 million is in for the special use fund. This is an approximate increase of about 4.8% higher than in the 2021 budget. So again, we're looking at a couple of things here, which Joe talked about, which is an increase on the real estate market, and that's particularly the residential real estate market, and the estimates for going forward that we will continue to see about a 4% increase in those valuations. Where we may see some shift is in commercial space, which we're seeing stable or if slightly lowering rates, but that's still unknown until we get out of this pandemic. Overall, we're in a good financial position. Any questions on the financial report this month?
I think we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'd like to move on to Adam Wathan to talk about system-wide services, and then after that, Joseph Keene with program and events.
Yes, hello. I'm Adam Wathan. I'm the Associate Director for System-Wide Services, and I'm giving the report, Statistical and Trend Report for September. That's going to focus on our system-wide report and on the programming statistics for 2020, and then Joseph Keene will come up and give a presentation as well. You can see in our general statistics that in 2021, we continue to pace where we have in previous months. I'd like to see that we're pushing toward the 2019 numbers in terms of our physical circulation, but we do have some mitigating factors like Central being closed and the inaccessibility of a portion of our collection that's behind those barriers right now. But you can see that it is trending upward compared to last year, of course. In digital usage, we are significantly over 2019. 2020 was a boom year for us, and that was mostly because we did have branches closed for a significant portion of time for about 2.5 months. And so in our visitation still remains lower than 2019 numbers and is pacing a bit higher than 2021. We do see the same trend line in 2019 that we do in 2021. It's just lower than that, but you can see the upward trend in summer usage. And in the next slide, you'll see our programming and outreach statistics. These are 2020 numbers, and of course 2020 was a time where we did have to shut down our physical programming, and these numbers reflect that to a significant extent. The programming teams did an excellent job of transitioning from physical programming to an online programming environment, and we launched online programming in response to our COVID closures. You can see that in 2020, we had 83,900 people attend, which is just slightly down from 2019, and that's because of the significant attendance of the online programming. You can see in the next section there that we dropped significantly in the number of programs that we offered, and that's because we did have a break in our programming. The level of programs prior to our closure accounts for about half of that number, about 600 programs, and then our virtual programs account for the other half. And that means our virtual program attendance was very high. Next slide. You can see that we have eclipsed previous years in the number of people who attend programs, and so our virtual programs are well attended, and this number also reflects that those virtual programs are archived and people can access them after the live program. And so we have people coming in and clicking on those and watching those programs, and we're counting those as attendance as well. In the next slide, you'll see our counts of attendance by age do drop, and that's because we do not count, or we're unable to count, those clicks into our archived programs by age. We don't know who's clicking on the program, and we can't tell if it's an adult or a child. And so those numbers are not represented in these. And you can see a drop, and also the number of programs and outreach by age drops as well, and those match up to about that 1,200 number. You can see that our average program attendance by age maintained a level. So even though we dropped in the number of programs, the average attendance stayed relatively similar to 2019 levels, except for our teen programming, where there was a significant drop. Are there any questions about the programming numbers there or any of the statistics? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Joseph, if you willing to, we got to, he did the whole, I'm sorry, you kind of stole your thunder. Excellent job, wonderful job particularly on finding a new audience for online, and then also being able to take that work that people are doing and expand the use. So thank you. I want to acknowledge you, Joseph. Thank you. And Adam, wonderful job presenting. It was seamless. Scott, if you could start the CVU, that would be great.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Scott Syme, Project Coordinator for the library. Today, I'll give you an update on Central and on the Antioch replacement, and then an overall update of our capital projects. I will have a couple of guest presenters today, and I'll call them up at different points in the process. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, we're there already. Okay. Let's see. I'll talk about Little Central, construction, next steps, timeline, and then I'll show some construction photos. Next slide. Here's a look at monthly usage stats over on the left for Little Central. You'll see we picked up a little bit in July. And then on the right side is PC sessions. So as a reminder, we have some public PCs in our learning lab over at Central while the rest of the building's under construction. And those numbers are holding pretty steady, or held pretty steady in July. Next slide. So for construction this month, I'll talk a little bit about what happened, and then I'll give another plug for tours. For the exterior, the Titan began painting the building's exterior. They started demolition of the old paving near where the drive-through will be. They were able to get the new power service to the building complete. We had a couple of weeks of closure in August, and that we're all back open now, and that went well. And also, they've started installation of exterior metal panels on the outside of the building. Inside, Titan is working on priming and painting, ceiling tile installation, tile work in the restrooms, installing new boilers and hot water pumps, new air handler unit parts. They've started on the casework in the staff break room. Server racks have been installed in our data center. And then a reminder for you that if you're interested in coming on a tour, if you haven't yet, those are most Fridays. We've got one tomorrow afternoon. I know that's a little short notice maybe. And our next one's on September 24th. If you can make it, just let me know.
What time in the afternoon, Scott?
Those are 3:30 to 4:30 typically.
Okay, and where would you meet?
We would, let me know you're coming first. Okay. And then we'd meet on the back side of the building, the south side.
Okay, south side of the building next to the park, is that right?
Across from the park, where if you remember where admin used to be, just right where that ramp is.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, next slide. So what's coming up next month? Titan will be continuing to work on the exterior of the building, continuing on that interior ceiling grid and tile, painting, finishes in the restrooms, site paving and utility work, exterior painting, and then the flooring install, carpet in most places. We have also been continuing to refine the move-in timeline. We'll be moving back in 3 phases with our primary goal to get the public parts of the building open first. And next slide. Here's a look at our timeline. This one hasn't changed since the last time you guys saw it. We're just at the end of quarter 3. And I've got a few photos for you. So this is some of the work on the exterior of the building. The first one is installing those metal panels on the delivery dock canopy. And then the middle one is where we've started painting some of the exterior. And then the last one there on the right is demolition of that old paving near where the new drive-through will be. Okay, and lastly for Central, these are a couple of interior shots of the kids area. So these are on the southeast corner of the building. You'll see all that natural light coming in. We've got some paint on the walls. And then on the right side photo, this is our new family restroom. So some fun and exciting tile over there. Okay.
Excuse me, Scott, can I ask a question? Or actually, maybe it's more for Sean. At what point are we going to be moving the library board meetings back to Central when it's opened? And do we have a time frame for that?
Yeah, we do have a time frame. We just don't have a time frame that we're can make public yet. I'm not sure. Is it October or November where we were able to give some kind of official date?
Yeah, so right now my plan is to bring an opening date back to you guys at the November board meeting.
Then we'll kind of be seeking approval, and then once you have that date, you'll know kind of probably the next month will be we'll be having it at Central.
I appreciate that. As you and I've talked before, unfortunately, this location is not accessible by public transportation, and I've had at least one constituent who had wanted to attend the board meetings, but he can't because he doesn't have a car. So I wanted to let him know when we might be moving back to Central.
Yes, I talked to that gentleman also, and we talked about maybe possible solutions, and he seemed to be, he enjoys coming to the meetings, but he understood about the transportation, and he was looking forward to coming back to Central, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next up, I'd like to introduce Abby Gersh, our project manager for the Central project, and she's also in charge of furnishings.
Did you have a question, Mitra? She's coming up.
You did share with him the fact that these meetings are streamed, correct?
He doesn't have a computer.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Abby. I'm the project manager for the CBU2 project, and I'm also responsible for selecting and procuring all the furniture for the project, which I am here today to give you a sneak peek of. I will start with first in kids. I'm really excited about this space. All the furniture will have all these bright and playful patterns and textures. We'll have these soft, comfortable seating, such as the pictured rocking chair, for a parent to sit with their kid and read. And we know that it's hard for kids to sit still, right? So rather than forcing it, that stool pictured in the bottom left encourages movement. The controlled freedom of movement stimulates the body and mind and increases a sense of well-being. The natural urge to move around is supported in a productive way. Another one of my favorite chairs, pictured there at the bottom, always reminds me of one of our 6x6 skills, recognizing letters everywhere. Of course, I see a Z there, so I love that our furniture can make those types of connections. Next slide.
And the duck. You can't not talk about the duck chair.
Okay. Yeah, so we're always trying to add in touches of whimsy. So
I need googly eyes on that.
yeah.
Well, the real library question, is it a duck or is it a rabbit?
It's a bird,
I feel like
or it's whatever you want it to be.
Thank you, Abby.
you could get little headbands and
Yeah.
change them based on the season.
The name of it is called Happy Bird. So, our new kid space is going to have these huge, wonderful picture windows with window seats that you can crawl inside of. And then linked between those will be these fun benches that can be used in a variety of ways. And again, making that link to literacy. These benches always remind me of cursive handwriting. So I'm really excited to see kids using these. Next slide. Open-ended play is something that's important to not only the library, but me as a parent too. These blocks have unlimited possibilities and will be fun for all ages. They can build forts, a sofa to sit on, stairs to climb, or my daughter's favorite pretend play right now is ice cream truck. So I can totally see her slinging ice cream cones out of the back of here. So I can't wait to see all the imaginations run wild with these. And next we'll move into the teen space. New to the teen area are 2 media rooms. We've noticed teens using our existing study rooms to hook up their game consoles. So now we'll have 2 spaces that are more conducive to gaming. This room will have an L-shaped sofa with different levels to sit on for all different postures, with a tech bar at the top with additional seating. And something I love about the patterns, they're reminiscent of old school video games. That one with the dots reminds me of Pac-Man. I'm sure they'll be too young to get that, but. And next slide is a conference room that we've added. This will have access from both the staff and public side. It'll have flip-top tables and stackable chairs, offering maximum flexibility. It can be set up in a variety of ways. And from there, we'll move into the staff side. This picture here is from the new county medical examiner facility. We're using the same kit of parts as this facility and the courthouse, with the thought that down the road, as changes occur, we ultimately end up with a warehouse full of parts and pieces. So having the same parts allows us to share and save us money in the long run. So while everyone's workstation has the same footprint, staff were able to select their own storage components and have a say in how their workstation is set up. Next slide. Ergonomics is a really big deal to us, which was highlighted for many of us that spent the first couple of months working from home at our dining room table. So every employee was able to select their own task chair that fits their needs best. And next slide. Within the staff workspace, we have this wonderful collaborative area that will serve as a place for casual meetings and those serendipitous conversations that promote collaboration across departments. In the break room, you see this wall covering on the window wall. This reminds us of a Shel Silverstein illustration, which connects our biophilic design intent with the idea of being inside of a story. So this break room has softer lighting, comfortable furniture, and is meant to serve as a place to relax and refresh. The square footage of this room went down a little bit, but it's going to be way more functional, way more comfortable space to use. And then the last space I have for you is the branch services. This is a continuation of the concepts we've used at Monticello and Lenexa. We'll have all height-adjustable workstations that are unassigned. They share among staff. And staff have already been working out of these since Little Central has been open, which has given them the opportunity to get a little used to them before we move back into the new space. We also have these great pod chairs, which offer another place to work or relax while on break, providing a variety of different ways to work. And that's the end of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
No, I want to thank you, Abby, and the rest of the facilities team. You guys have gone above and beyond talking with staff about their needs, various configurations. I think staff feel really involved with this process. And it's just, they're not just going to be like, hey, your cubicle 753 on the left. You've just been tireless in talking with staff, particularly talking with the administrative team and other groups of people within the organization. I kind of want to recognize that. It's a tremendous amount of detail work, and I want to thank you, Sean and Juan, and Georgia also. Just been a great team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are we back to you, Scott?
Hello, I'll talk a little bit about Antioch replacement next. Okay, perfect. Tonight we'll give you a design update with Dan McGinn, who's our project manager from Dake Wells. And in a few minutes, I'll introduce him. Before I do that, though, I've got just a couple of things to let you know about. So we are still we're continuing with design. We're planning for public engagement number 3, which will likely occur in the fall. And kind of the goal of that is to review what we heard from members of the public and then to let them know what the design is looking like at that point and how their thoughts have been included. A few next steps just to put on your radar. We will have a bond sale coming up at the end of October. That's how we partially fund the project. And let's see, we'll also be going to the city of Merriam likely this fall to talk with them about the site plan. And then that lastly will kind of end in the property transfer. So all those things are gonna go ahead and hopefully start happening this fall. Next slide, please. Here's a look at our timeline. So we're in design. No changes to this since the last time you saw it. And then I think that is my last slide for this. And I'd like to go ahead and introduce Dan McGinn from Dake Wells. And he's going to walk you through where we're at in design.
Tara Bray is also joining me here today. Thanks for having us. Let's see, what am I reading? Blue Highways by William Least Heat Moon. I don't know if anyone has read that book. He also wrote a great book that I love about the Flint Hills, Prairie Earth. And then my guilty pleasure is a Jack Reacher book that's kind of a page turner that I thought I wouldn't mention, but here I am mentioning. It's kind of embarrassing, but
No shame.
There aren't any bad books, Dan. They're all good, and I will partner with you. I am a big Jack Reacher fan. Lee Childs, right from the beginning when he first published it. So we can either feel literarily inadequate, or we can revel in the fact that we're still reading books.
I love what I feel like you've allowed it.
Yeah, let's revel together.
I'm going to embrace it.
That's my choice.
I'm a big Jack
Jack
Reacher fan.
Reacher's awesome, so.
And then
Except when he's played by Tom Cruise. The character's 6'2". Tom Cruise makes 5 foot.
Doesn't quite work.
Keep us on track, Dan.
So let's see. I'm project manager with Dake Wells for the project, and I've been practicing over 30 years now, and I'm just so excited about this project. So it's really a joy to kind of update you on the schematic design. That's what we'll do today. Quick update. We always start, the next slide. We always start our presentation with this slide, which is kind of a list of project imperatives, the things that must be accomplished for a project to be successful. This list is based on a lot of active listening with key library staff and leadership. And just to quickly go down it, convenience is key. We want the experience for patrons to be just as absolutely easy and intuitive as possible. We want to respect that. This kind of goes a little bit to what Abby was just talking with, making sure that office spaces are really great, but really wanting to respect the staff and create a building that is as responsive to their needs as it is patrons' needs. We want to create an inspired experience for patrons, a library that really sparks that sense of wonder and awe. We want to embrace flexibility and be sure that the library is future adaptive. You know, the last year has obviously told us we don't exactly know what's going to happen in the near future, and who knows what's going to happen 10 years from now. So having a space that can really adapt and be responsive is important to the design team and leadership. We want to reach out and proactively invite and welcome new patrons, reflecting the diversity of the community. That's been a really active part of the project, working with Christopher and others to really make sure that we get out there and invite those that haven't necessarily been invited before. We want to create a jewel within the Miriam campus, something striking that represents the bold vision and impact of the Johnson County Library System. We want the architecture to be transformative, with the experience changing from day to day and from day to night and season to season. So our libraries themselves are so transformative with how they change people. The architecture can reflect that too and really be surprising as time goes on. We want to focus on quality and value, obviously, thinking about a building that's performed 70, 80, 90 years beyond. And we want to create a place, again, this is something Abby brought up, a place of many places. So a variety of spaces, some a little bit more compressed, some more open, some a little darker, some more light, some color. Just have a variety of spaces, knowing that there are so many different types of people out there that are going to use the library. And then tied into that also, we were so excited to have public art in the project and to integrate a public artist onto the design team. And we're actually, after this meeting, we have a meeting related to public art selection too. So that's incredibly exciting. We did have 157 artists submit for this project. So there's a little bit of attention to this, the potential of this project. And then finally, we think it's imperative that the building promotes sustainability, and that's something we've really been drilling down on, and I can answer questions about that if others would like. So the next, to summarize those 500 words in a few smaller words, the goal is intuitively convenient, function-driven, campus-minded, sustainable ×3. That means resource efficient, sustainability related to well-being and staff and patrons, and also the sustainability of the outreach that we're doing to the community to get those diverse people, diverse voices and people into the library, to make sure that is sustained beyond just this initial outreach and design phase into the operation of the library. And then budget maximizing, getting the absolute bang for the buck. So this is a impressive collection of shapes. This was one of our first steps, was to develop a needs analysis with library leadership, which was basically to talk about what they needed and to list all the spaces and approximate sizes for the library to operate effectively. And then we kind of arranged those into this diagram, which is kind of color-coded. Blue is sort of general library spaces. What is kind of yellowish is actually orange. That's children's. Teen is a little bit different color there. That's yellow. Community spaces are in red. Up at the very top, that's kind of back of house, light green. Olive drab is the general collection in adults. Tech and computers in purple. And then this on the very lower right corner is kind of support spaces. So 8 different types of spaces. This kind of represents all the rooms, all the spaces, and roughly their size requirements and how they need to be adjacent to each other. So it's an adjacency diagram that makes a lot of sense to architects, and it's helped us kind of put together the beginnings of the floor plan and how the building might fit on the site. Then the next slide kind of just shows, if you remember the color coding idea. One more slide. There. Kind of you can see the color-coded 8 shapes up there. Those represent roughly the kind of size of those different program groups. The goal is to fit those program groups and all the spaces and adjacencies and requirements and satisfy these 5 goals that we just talked about onto this incredible site. And that is just kind of summarizing what our design challenge is. And again, that's one of the reasons we're so excited. It's not an easy project, but the best things aren't easy. So we are just so excited to create something that that you guys are just so proud of and glad to have in your collection of libraries. So it's a little washed out, but it kind of just shows in general how we're focusing on how you enter the site, where you're coming to the library, how do you know where to go, how do you know where the front door is, and where are people moving from. So as they come in from Slater and turn into the kind of turn around there and go into the parking garage, in their cars, as they come on foot from the community center or from the garage, or as they're being dropped off. Those kind of flow patterns kind of tell us what these exterior in-between spaces might want to be, and tells us roughly how the building might lay out. Tara will talk a little bit about how we wound up with a 2-story solution. And one of the things that we've heard from the community, as well as from leadership, Johnson County leadership, is how important exterior space is. So creating, in addition to kind of the community center, I think they call it the driveway, that kind of outdoor space, it's really great. Creating 4 separate types of outdoor spaces for the library, in addition to all the great indoor spaces. So there'd be a kind of a campus plaza that would be more of an entry experience, kind of celebrating the entry, letting you know exactly how to get in the building, and just kind of a place to gather and connect as you enter the library. Kind of a passively designed library yard between the garage and the building, and enclosed, secured library courtyard that's more geared to younger folks, kids and families, teens. And then it's not really pictured here, but on the upper level, a pretty sizable green roof with a screened porch element. So again, tying into what Abby was talking about with just different types of spaces and materials and finishes, the exterior spaces too will have that variety. So I think that'll really help be something unique for the library experience. And with that, Tara will talk a little bit about the schematic design as we've taken it thus far.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tara Bray. I'm part of the design team, Jake Wells Architecture. So here we just wanted to talk about how the importance of having drive-through access to provide ease of access for patrons has begun to shape the form of the building and the overall organization of spaces inside. We've heard that this drive-through needs to be intuitively convenient while maximizing the number of cars that are able to be in the queue. You can go to the next slide. After exploring both 1- and 2-story layouts and working with key library staff and library leadership and our core team, We landed on a 2-story scheme primarily because it allows for much more room around the building, and it helps create a more friendly, pedestrian-friendly campus, a little bit more space around the library. This diagram is looking at the ground floor, where you'll see that the location of the drive-through begins to tell us where the back of house staff spaces need to be located. The rest of the spaces and their organization within the building were starting to be driven by the level of activity and the corresponding noise level. So you'll see here that we have the children's area as well as the teens area, both of which are known for being a little bit more boisterous on the lower level. We know that for parents with young kids, especially parents with multiple children, it's much easier to navigate and move to the lower level rather than having to make your way up to the second floor. With that, we can go. I will also note that on this level, there's some mechanical rooms and some support spaces, as well as the building entry and the lobby. Then we can go up. When we take a look at the second floor, you'll see that this is where we're locating the quieter spaces along with the general collection. This is where you could find computer areas and study rooms. The periodicals will be up here, as well as a large community room that will be sized for about 40 people. And at this point in the process, we've been looking at a very large east-facing green roof, in which we're looking at enclosing a portion of that with a screened-in porch to help maximize its ability to be used throughout the year. We're pretty excited about that. Then now we'd just like to show you a few schematic massing diagrams that begin to explore the relationship between the form, the shape of the building, and the buildings that are existing on the campus, which is a parking structure in the community center. This shot is looking from a site stair on the southwest corner, and it's looking north towards the doors of the community center. And with this view, even though it's pretty, it's just a massing diagram, but we've started to really ask ourselves, what's the nature of the space in between the parking deck and the library, and how is that just a space that provides a really warm welcome for people first coming onto the site? And then we've also been asking ourselves, how can this drive-through be a truly beautiful experience and not something that you miss out on if you're not entering into the library? You still have a great experience going through the drive-through. And go to the next one. Yep. This is a view taken from the community center courtyard looking south. This would be looking at where we're thinking at this point the entry to the library might be located. You'll start to see that we've been exploring enclosing some portion of the site around the library to create a secure outdoor reading space for kids and teens on the ground floor. That's something we're still exploring what the nature of that enclosure is, and we've been working with the Johnson County security team to make sure that whatever barrier is enclosing that space is done just right. And again, we're still looking at, what is this building, how does the form want to respond to what the site is currently giving us? And then this last image is looking from Slater Street, looking north towards the community center. This would be the first impression for a lot of people coming down Slater Street, in which you get to see this great view of a green roof, the building welcoming you in that way. And just to wrap up here, we'll say that it's really important to us that we get this right. And we've been working with library leadership and the core team with key library staff to keep looking at the massing of the building. And it's something that we're really looking forward to continuing to explore. And with that, that's the conclusion of our presentation. We'd be happy to move back towards any previous slides to answer any questions that you have. And we're looking forward to hearing from you and hearing your feedback.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner Hanslick?
I do, Bethany.
Oh, why don't you go ahead?
Will the existing parking structure accommodate the library patrons too, or will there be additional parking somewhere?
And then, Sean, you tell me when you want me to answer and when you would.
I can answer that. That will accommodate library and community center. And right when we was doing this back in 2019, we were talking about this with the city. There was a lot of debate on how we were going to handle parking. And they had funds, I think, star bond funds, in order that could do a parking structure. And so we talked about exploring that rather than a parking garage, which this really isn't. we talked about looking at numbers and our patron traffic, and so they were able to size it correctly, and it's a very similar arrangement that we have to Lenexa, which we'd agree to help maintain that structure because looking at the lot, we couldn't get there without stacking. There just wasn't enough acreage to put a large parking. I think also from the standpoint of protecting cars on the lower level from heat and from rain and all those types of things, that was again an advantage for us. And again, from just being a heat sink, having a smaller thing as part of the sustainability, a smaller footprint for parking is also part of the sustainability effort that the city is invested as much as we are. Great question.
Hey, Kelly, I've been a few times and I've never seen a problem with parking. So I think there's probably plenty, so yeah.
We plan to fill it up when the library gets there. That's our goal.
Commissioner Hanslick?
Thank you. I had a couple questions, two questions specifically. One is back on the slide that shows the first floor level. Can you point out where the entrance will be on that?
Yeah, we're
Guess I could
currently
turn-
exploring the entrance occurring somewhere on the north side. North is to the right. Thinking about, if you remember that previous diagram, where people are coming from. Just trying to find exactly where, based on the flow, where the right spot is, so that the goal is that we want people to know exactly where the door is. Currently in the community center, it's actually a little bit challenging to know where the entrance is because it's just not quite
Not
intuitive,
obvious.
so.
Well, and the reason I ask that is, I know when we were looking at the design for the renovation of the Central Resource Library, a big issue was ensuring security for the children's area, which is why, my understanding is why we put it so far toward the back of the building. And when I'm looking at this, it looks like this children's area is going to be fairly close to the entrance, and I'm just wondering if you've given any thought to that aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been, as part of our design explorations, making sure that there's a nice distance between the door and then the first point when you actually can go into the children's area to both keep unwanted folks out going that direction, but also keep runners, kids from going the other direction too. So that's a great question, and that's something
Sure.
that's...
No, I appreciate it. I just know it was a big topic of conversation when we discussed the design of Central Resource Library, and was something I think was important to everybody. The second question is, I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about the sustainability aspects of the building. I'm really intrigued by that, and I'll have a couple follow-up, I think, questions. But first, I want to hear from you more about the sustainability aspects.
Well, we got good news that we're actually on board, and there's resources for us to pursue actual LEED certification. So sometimes that's design it to meet the intent of LEED, which is always in my mind like tastes like Coke sort of thing.
It's like doing all the classwork but never picking up your diploma.
So having worked on LEED certified projects before, it really keeps you honest, and it keeps you driven. And we actually love the LEED program, and sometimes do use the checklist even when it's not LEED certified. But we've already had a few meetings. We're working in the contractor into these meetings, and are really hitting it hard, including exploring options like possibly an all-electric building, exploring options of reducing, really paying attention to where the glazing is and how sunlight and direct solar gain is coming in, so we can reduce the size of the mechanical systems, the exterior areas, creating spaces where you don't always have to be inside, reducing water usage. So as we kind of have done our initial pass through sustainable sites and materials and resources and energy consumption, we're definitely looking good for LEED Silver, and hopefully can even do a little bit better than that. But that's an important part, and it is tied to the kind of DEI aspect, kind of the social justice aspect too, of really wanting that to be a sustainable effort that We're working with Stephen E. Smith, who's just incredible on that aspect to actively try to get out and welcome those that haven't necessarily been invited to the library and might not feel welcome. And then the whole well-being aspect, when I mentioned sustainable ×3. So LEED certification actually does touch on that with like indoor air quality and those kind of things, and views and good natural light. So that's, I mean, one of the things we talked about even in our interview was the importance of light, and that light is a building material. So that'll really help make the space feel great inside for patrons and workers. Long answer, sorry.
Oh, no, that's very exciting, especially that you're working with Stephen E. Smith. That's impressive. Part of the reason I asked that question is I had the opportunity, a couple months ago, I was contacted by a gentleman, you may know him, Ashok Gupta. He's with the Natural Resources Defense Council, and he actually came and met with myself and Brad Reinhardt, who is the director of Johnson County Facilities Department. And Ashok lives near this area, so he has a very strong interest in this building. And what he wanted to talk to us about was the concept of net zero ready buildings. And I don't know if, and I'm no expert on that, but it's a very intriguing concept to build into an existing building the things that would be needed to make it net zero at some point in the future, thereby saving a lot of money because you don't have to redo it. Is that something you're familiar with? Or
yeah, we're even at this very early stage of blue boxes, are doing energy modeling. That's really helped us kind of fine tune again how look at the shades here drawn, thinking about how light comes in. If direct light is coming in, you're having to air condition that. And so we're doing energy modeling even at this early stage. And one of the big ways, one of the pathways that Ashok talks about to get to net zero is to have an all-electric building. So then you're tapping into renewable energy sources like wind and solar outside of the system. And then so both reducing the load by paying close attention to light sources and natural lighting and all that, and then also looking at where the energy is coming from, that's kind of the pathway. So he's a very influential guy.
Yes, he is.
And we've
And
already
very
met with him a couple
convincing.
times, and he's helped to shape the direction of some of the thinking on the project. And
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. I'm excited. All great news.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Fantastic. Thank you very much.
thanks.
I just
Look forward
wanted
to
to
further updates.
say thanks to Dick Wells, particularly to Dan and Tara. They get a lot of opinions, a lot of people's points of view. Some of those opinions are very strong opinions, and they've always, what I really admire is they've always listened and kind of challenged certain assumptions, come back with solutions, and the partnership has been really great. I want to say to the board, the working relationship between the administrative staff, facilities, and Dake Wells is going very well, and I think you'll see that in the final product. So I just want to publicly acknowledge just what an outstanding job you're both doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. So capital improvement projects timeline summary, is that back to you?
Back to Scott.
It's back to me. Thank you, guys. This is the last one from me today. Okay, next slide, please. So what you're looking at here is our big capital improvement projects, the buildings. No changes since last month on this one. Next slide. These are the kind of taking care of what we have projects, the CRP projects. And we have two more scheduled for this year. One is Oak Park. That one is electrical work and a staff area refresh. That one's slated to kick off next week. So Oak Park will be closed next week for a week. And then Corinth is waiting in the wings. And we're anticipating that to occur sometime between September and November. So as soon as we can nail down those dates and supplies, we'll be back to let you know exactly when that's going to happen. And that's all I've got for this one. Any questions?
Thank you, Scott. Next, we have the summer reading update on your agenda. It says it's Melanie. Melanie was unable to be here today, and so Joseph, who didn't get a chance to talk last time, will get a chance to talk this time. And
Whether you like it or not.
Exactly. Thank you, Joseph.
So, hello. So we did have another very successful summer reading in 2021 and are excited to share with you our animal-themed programs, books, and fun over the past few months. None of this would have been possible without the remarkable work of our leadership team. And I'd like to introduce you to those people. We have Robin Davin, who's a youth service support clerk, Christian Devonshire. She's a full-time IS at Central. She was integral to the launching and the end of summer events. Melanie Fimler, who's the elementary coordinator, she actually led this team, and she would be up here speaking. I get the privilege to speak in her place. Michelle Rainey, she's right next to Melanie up there. She's a full-time YS at Shawnee Cedar Row. She spearheaded a lot of the programs and the presenters. Jenny Reeves, bottom left, she is a YS librarian here at Monticello in DeSoto. She was instrumental in the book distribution process. Jennifer Taylor, she is the creative service artwork person for the library. She's part of the promotions team, CX, and our creative services. Also this year, we had two subject matter experts who have lots of experience with distribution of books and with system-wide storage. Those are Mary Beth Ricks and Erica Vole. Mary Beth Ricks, she's a YS librarian at Shawnee Cedar Row, and Erica Vole is a YS librarian at Blue Valley. All of the work that we do would not have been possible without this amazing, phenomenal group of people. Next slide. The art this year was created by Il Sung Na, a local Kansas City artist. I'm sure did everyone get to see all the local art stuff that all of the summer reading kind of swag? He's amazing. Great artwork. The t-shirts were, if I would have known that I was doing this presentation earlier, I would have wore the summer t-shirt so that you guys could see how cool it was. This year, our reader advisory approach to the summer was facilitated by a group of YS librarians. So they read and discussed, I forgot to say next slide, I'm sorry. Discussed this book as a group, which for reader advisory, it's based on the abilities, the reading abilities from the stance of the child's developmental stage as opposed to grade level. So that's a key distinction here on reader advisory. They then crafted the bookmarks with key indicators of what to look for in a text and recommendations. These were then offered at our pop-ups and in our branches throughout the summer. So many of these bookmarks, if you do want one of those bookmarks, let me know. I'm more than happy to hook you up. Next slide. So summer reading, it was a new year, but we still have the same pandemic. So we lived, we learned, and we adapted. We did one-day summer reading launch. We had fewer programs and presenters this summer, but as you saw from the program attendance numbers, which I'll also show you in a second, we still had quite a bit of program. We still had a high attendance number for our programs. We had a tier approach to give away summer reading books. I'll talk about that in a second. And we had a one-day end of summer event. Next slide. This is our summer launch. Kristen Devonshire, she really helped put this together. We had Sparkle Storytime with Grace Bentley. All of these lovely programs up here. Kwame Alexander was a part of that. We had a trivia, wildlife gardening, Butterfly 101, and a National Geographic photographer, Franz Lanting. We staggered it throughout the day, so it started with the young kiddos and eventually moved up to more of an adult audience. Next slide. So to keep the Butterfly 101 and Gardening for Wildlife programs alive throughout the summer, one thing that we try to do in many of our programs is to carry on the message throughout that, so that it's not just a one-time drop and go type program. And that was that we planted a community garden at the Corinth Library location. So patrons who signed up for either of these programs received the materials. You can see those in the top right-hand corner. That little butterfly up there is a seed packet, so that you could take that home and you can make your own butterfly garden at home. Which, if you can see in this little image here, that's a butterfly. So cute, from the Corinth Library Community Garden. Next slide. We also had staff-led programs. Here are some of the staff-led programs that we had this year. We continued on with our book clubs. We had 4 different book clubs, tabletop games, and our online story times. And many of these programs did tie back to the theme of Tales and Tales. Next slide. We also had outside presenter programs. So we did have Patron Love the Variety that we offered this year. We had the Kansas Disability Services, Clearwater Aquarium, Topeka Zoo, the Barn Sanctuary. Gave us a really cool sneak peek into the lives of the animals. Charlie Miley took us on a story writing adventure to create our own tales, while Young Rembrandts had us drawing some of our favorite tales and animals to go along with it, of course. Talewise helped us learn the science of animals through storytelling, and Susan Michael Jones helped us understand the amazing connections that exist between animals and local American Indian heritage. Next slide. Book distribution. We had 3 different tiers of this. We offered 100 free books to each of the 80 public schools, elementary schools in Johnson County. We encouraged schools to prioritize the books for at-risk or struggling readers to ensure they had a book in their hands before they left school for the summer. All but 5 schools participated, so we gave away 7,500 books through this part of the distribution. April through May, we continued to engage with some community partners. We had 20 community partners and it gave away 6,500 books to them. June and July, we had pop-up events at parks, so in-person programming was held at 4 different pop-ups, and in total, we gave away nearly 400 books. And these are just some of the pictures. Mary Beth Ricks and her daughter Gwen are in the bottom left. She was a part of the team, and you might have known Sparkle from last year. Sparkle did return this year with his nemesis horse, and in that middle picture is one of Sparkle's that's Violet. Sarah Matthew, who's a youth service librarian over at Lenexa, she often dons in the Sparkle costume. I don't know if I should have shared that or not. Next slide. Another initiative that we had over the summer was Eladante Read. The purpose of this is to keep 1st through 6th grade ELL students engaged in reading across the summer to reduce the summer slide. So we used an outreach approach to this. Christine Peterson is our outreach service, Latino service librarian, and she helped organize through her network to get these books into these children's hands. This led to a consistent participant base throughout the summer. She offered sessions twice a week and in the afternoons. Next slide. So this is some of the indicators that we were measuring for that. So each group got 2 to 3 books across the summer. One thing that we have noticed that families have stayed engaged and connected to the library throughout this service. And they have shared some of their stories and how this has improved the reading ability of their children. It's helped build the libraries inside these families' homes. It's built a peer group centered on literacy and learning. Some of these participants were so engaged that they even logged in to do their sessions with Christine on their summer vacations. That's pretty devoted group of people. Next slide. So the end of summer event, we had a couple of really great programs. If you haven't heard of Funky Mama, I definitely encourage you to check her out. And then we had Sarah Dykman, and she is a local author who takes you on a track through her, I can't remember how many miles, but bicycling with butterflies, and her journey of it's like 1,000 miles. It's a long period. Anyways, but this last program, Sarah Dykman, if you are interested in her program, we do offer it as one of those programs that is now recorded and it's in Library on Demand. So you can go and you can look at that program there. Next slide. And as all good things happen at the library, we also do some contests throughout the summer in order to engage different types of literacies within Johnson County, such as our sticker contest, which really invited caregivers, friends, and teachers to attend the special reading of these contest winners. We had fantasy short story contest, animal photography contest. Any of the stats that you would like to know about these programs are in your board packet. So I encourage you to go ahead and look at those stats, the program stats, and how many people are involved in those. That's in your board packet. Next slide. And this is the last one that we had was a photography contest winner. These are just some of the contest winners of that. You can look for all of those contest winners in your board packet by looking at the YouTube video that's there. And I leave you with this. This is that Sparkles. I encourage you to watch this on your own. It's a little bit longer. It's in your board packet, so you guys can click on it and have fun, and we'll see you next year. Any questions that I can direct to Melanie Fimler?
If you need a nemesis for next year, I feel like you're missing an opportunity that it could be Sparkle and Sprinkle. I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah, so I do encourage you to watch this video because I think horse is the nemesis, which is horse is a brown horse. Oh. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Joseph. That's awesome.
I've got one or two questions. How much are the school librarian? Are they on board? Have we got any feedback from them as far as if they like the program, the new way of doing things?
I'll check back with Melanie on that because I know that she's doing evaluations with all of them, and I know that they just got started with the new school year. So this would be the time that she's going to probably be reaching out to them, probably in November or December, to figure out what next summer looks like in terms of that distribution.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of them. I know they hadn't heard anything yet, but I know one was saying how they. It's a lot of extra work, but I think it depends upon the librarian. One's like, yeah, no, it was great. It was good to have books. And one said, it's a lot of extra work when I don't have staff and I'm trying to do everything else. So be interesting to see what more feedback. And I just encourage you. I mean, I think I applaud the effort of reaching out to the schools and trying to hit those.
And please, happy to get that contact so that I can give it to Melanie so that she can follow up with that teacher.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And David, that's a really good point. It's important for us when we do these partnerships to make sure that we're resourcing them correctly with people and that we're not putting a burden, but it is a shared partnership between the two entities. So, yeah, I'll be interested in hearing that also. So, thank you, Joseph. Great report. I'd like to invite Janet Blanchette to come up and talk to us about the GED program and the partnership that we've had with Johnson County Community College. And I invited Janice to kind of talk about this project just because I think it's so important.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for allowing me some time to address you today. Thank you especially to Sean for inviting me here today. My name is Janice Blansett. I am the Director of Adult Education for Johnson County Community College. Next slide, please. So Sean and I were talking recently about the fact that Johnson County Adult Education is a 35-year partnership between the Johnson County Library and Johnson County Community College. So 35 years ago, those two partners saw fit to create an opportunity for adults to improve their basic skills. And so Sean and I were talking about the alignment of our mission, vision, values, and goals. And I actually left you with a printed handout at your places today, and it shows side by side how those align. And so we put all of those words into a word cloud generator, and this is what it came up with. And I thought this was really kind of a cool thing. And it shows the alignment around community, learning, lives, information, people, strengthening, and transformation. And I think those are really key ideas that we definitely share in common. We appreciate this 35-year partnership. It has been instrumental to our success in Johnson County. Next, please. So what is Johnson County Adult Education? Well, our program is a community-based, grant-funded, life skills, workforce-oriented program. Our core programs include basic numeracy and literacy, which we refer to as adult basic education, and also high school completion. And in Johnson County, that's achieved through the passing of the GED exams. We also provide English language instruction for non-native speakers. These individuals typically have a very limited vocabulary, maybe 50 words or less, all the way up through being conversational in English on day-to-day topics. But these individuals have not yet learned to read or write fluently in English. And so their language skills are kind of at a mid-level. And if they're higher than that, they are too high for our program. So that gives you an idea of the clients that we serve. In addition, we have a series of workforce and auxiliary programs that help students transition into successful careers and lives. So one that we offer that's really exciting is called Accelerating Opportunity Kansas, or AOK for short. And that program allows individuals who are still working on their GED to concurrently enroll in career technical education programs, and the state pays the tuition while they're still working on their GED. So that's a fast path to a great career and also a high school completion. We also offer career training for ESL students, and in light of what I just told you about the level of our students, that's a kind of a big ask. But we have had now 3 successful programs that have been piloted, wherein our English language learners are trained to become certified nurse assistants, commercial truck drivers, or welders. And all 3 of those programs have been very successful with a lot of scaffolding, a lot of assistance, additional support from English language instructors. Our program also offers bridge classes for underprepared high school students, students whose math or reading skills will not enable them to be successful in college. We provide that remediation and move them on into a successful college experience. And finally, our program offers a series of student scholarships. Through the generosity of our donors, we're able to provide substantive scholarships at each graduation ceremony in about 7 to 10 per year. Next slide. So our Johnson County Adult Education Program is located throughout the community at areas convenient and close for the students that they serve. And those are located generally along I-35 from Antioch Library at the north to Gardner Library at the south. So the 2 library sites anchor our locations throughout the community, many of which are located in very high-need areas. We are particularly appreciative of the space that we have occupied both at the Antioch Center and at the Gardner Library, which enables us to meet students where they are and to really serve them close to their homes and work locations. Next, please. So in a typical year, and this is not a typical year, we serve about 1,400 students per year. This year, we're more likely to come in at about 1,000 students, given the distancing requirements and the shortage of teachers as well. Our target audience is individuals over the age of 16 without a high school diploma. Those would be our basic skills students or our GED candidates, and also adults who speak English less than well. The biggest challenges for our students start with mistrust of traditional education and institutions. So if you think about individuals who have not finished a high school diploma, they didn't have a particularly good experience in traditional education for the most part. And if you consider our English language learners, those are typically immigrants who have sometimes been challenged and not felt welcome in public institutions as well. So the students come to us with some anxiety and trepidation about being trustworthy. And so we've worked really hard to be trustworthy and to establish that reputation throughout the community so that students are comfortable coming to the community centers for the instruction in either basic skills or English language. Another major challenge that our students face is work schedules. Many of them work 2 to 3 jobs, and arranging that with time regularly in class is quite a challenge. We do have distance education options that give students total flexibility to study after their children go to bed. Those are not the preferred methods for most of our students. Those are not the best methods, but for those for whom it works, that option is available. Transportation is another huge challenge for our students, and I know Commissioner Hanslick has been very instrumental and very helpful to us in establishing public transportation options that serve our study centers. Family and child care responsibilities are another area where many of our students struggle, just trying to carve out the time to be attentive to their coursework while also meeting the obligations of their families. Next, please. So over the years, our program has evolved to become more of a workforce-focused program. So of course, we are still very insistent that we maintain the academic rigor associated with a totally respectable high school diploma and English language skills. But at the same time, we work to provide students with skills in other categories as well. Our program is largely a life skills preparation program. When students enter the program, we focus on identifying their interests and their talents and where those merge, and help them identify career options that might be attractive to them. And once they define their own goals, then we help them map out detailed plans for achieving those goals. So for example, if they decided that they wanted to pursue a career in HVAC, we would sit down with them and talk about the barriers that might derail them from completing that credential. And then we would also talk about the cost of accomplishing that, the time required, what the job prospects look like once they complete, both in the short term and the long term, so that they have eyes wide open on exactly what their options are and their goals become truly their goals. We also offer a strong series of support services, which starts with the instructor knowing each student very well and watching for signs that things may be changing in their lives. There may be some signs of distress that need intervention to help them stay on course. We have 2 transition coaches with housing needs, with food scarcity, with any of the issues that may challenge them in maintaining their progress towards their goals. Technology skills have become so much more important during the pandemic. We were emphasizing those before, but when the pandemic hit, all of our classes did go online, and that became a significant challenge in that many of our students did not have access to computers, they did not have internet, and they did not have the technology skills to be able to make that transition. So we hurriedly provided those resources to them, and we have since ramped up the focus on technology skills to make sure that they are better prepared than ever, because that's the way the world works. With regard to employment skills, we focus on soft skills, attendance, teamwork, collaboration, all of those soft skills that employers find critical for success on the job. We also emphasize the concurrent enrollment in career training while students are still either learning the English language or working on their high school diploma. We want them to be looking at and moving towards a career goal as well. And because financial limitations are a major constraint for many of our students. We also provide a variety of college scholarships to help students get started successfully. And finally, last but not least, we help students build the confidence and the self-advocacy skills that they will take with them to be successful in life. Next, please. So why do we care about adult education? Well, there are a lot of benefits both to the individual and to the community. High school graduates on average earn $10,000 a year more than non-high school graduates. Our economy spends about $200 billion a year on public support programs for adults with low skills and literacy. And for every new high school graduate, taxpayers gain $6,250 in tax revenue and reduced expenses. So there's a pretty strong argument for the need for adult education in our community. Employers require skills that are associated with completion of a high school diploma. And you see here the statistics, less than 1% of recently advertised open positions were open to individuals without a high school diploma, and almost 11% more jobs were available to those that did have the high school diploma. So there's a huge difference in just having that credential completed. So in short, adult education provides the knowledge and skills to build strong families and to fuel the economy today and into the future. Next, please. So what do JCAE students need? Well, first of all, they need the trusted allies. They need to know that they can come to the study centers and be themselves and learn and advance their knowledge and their careers. They need services near their homes and work, which is the reason that we have the various locations throughout the community. And again, kudos to the library for being such a wonderful partner over these past 35 years and making those resources available to students throughout Johnson County. Students also need support in setting and meeting their goals. And so again, we try to provide that in a variety of ways, and also connect them with other community resources as well, so that that can be kind of a permanent set of skills going forward. Next, please. So I could talk all day about my passion for adult education because it's something that I really believe in strongly. But I also want to share with you just a short video clip. This was just created last week. A story of one of our students who has gone through our program and some of her experience. So if you would, please.
I didn't know where to start. And a colleague of mine at work always told me.
And I know they tested this before, and it worked. So,
Janice, if we're unable to get the audio, would I be able to get the link from you, and I'd be happy to share it to the board?
yes. It's only a 2-minute clip, so it is pretty quick. And, so I'll just finish by saying that also at your places, I left a one-page handout that outlines some of the features that we're looking for in identifying a location that will replace the current site that we have at the Antioch Library. So of course, we're terribly sad about losing that location for our program, but we totally understand the wheels of progress, and Sean has kept us informed, and we appreciate that a great deal. What we are looking for is a community partner who may be able to talk with us about how to combine the needs that we have for another adult education site north of 75th Street with other community opportunities and needs. So if that rings any bells with you, or if you know of anybody who might be interested in having a conversation with with me or with us, I would greatly appreciate your letting me know. This is the period where we're just exploring options and looking for a way to maintain that presence north of 75th Street, because we know what a strong area of need that is within our community for adult education services. So I think we're still having technical difficulties. Are there any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So it's that time of year where we're looking to schedule the budget committee. It's just my assumption that the committee would be made up of the chairperson, the vice chair, and the secretary, and just wanted to confirm that.
Yep.
Okay, and then we will be sending out a poll to find times in October, November, and December as we go through that.
Okay.
I want to give you that Lily Tran, a former HR director, has taken a position in Colorado, and that Maury Thompson, the deputy county manager, will be taking over those responsibilities and be managing the HR department. And I'm assuming that's still good. And then just to let you know, talking with Prairie Village, we just reached out to Wes because of our partnership. And talked to him and just told him like we would be complying with the city ordinance. So if you go to Corinth, you may see a city sign on that door. I have asked staff at this point not to do, we're not in the enforcement business, but we are in the information sharing business. And so previously we had engaged with patrons about wearing a mask when they come in. We no longer do this just because at this point, it is such a contentious issue. We have masks available, we have the signage, and if those want to comply, can, and if those that don't, we understand. And then the final update is on the Edgerton building. The Edgerton building is the building that we rent. I don't know if we have photographs on this, or just the title. So there are a number of issues with that building. We've got some water mitigation issues. The roof's leaking. That's the nice way of putting it. And the back wall is an interior wall that faces the outside, and it's losing all the grout. So there are a number of things that we have concerns with the building. We've been working with the city on this to see if we can get those resolved. But I felt it's important to bring in a structural engineer just to look at that back wall. I don't know if it's a support wall, but it does not look in good repair, and it has me concerned. Approximate cost is a couple of $1,000s to do that, and I think the library will pay that and then share that information with the city, and we'll have a plan to kind of a CRP plan on what that building can be done. We need to mitigate the water, we need to get some of the ADA issues as tripping hazards, and we need to get that exterior wall fixed. And that concludes the county librarian's report.
Okay. Is it possible that that work could be done before our retreat, since we will be actually talking about our priorities, that if we have a building that needs more serious repair, there's something that we need to step in and do, would be useful if it looks like we could at least have a better idea of where we are?
We can. We rent that building, and the relationship is that the landlord would do predominantly the amount of repairs. We can cost them out, and we can maybe either do cost sharing, or the library also has the ability to pay for those outright. It's really the will of the board at that point. We can provide that information. We can budget for that. When talking with the city, they have expressed that they don't have a lot of funds to continue to keep and maintain that building. So we have a couple of options. I think the structural engineer, along with the work that Juan and Sean have done, can give us a pretty good picture, and we can come up with a cost.
Okay,
That
yeah,
helps.
I think that would be really useful to have before our retreat, since that's kind of where we talk about those big picture ideas that I kind of figured that a lot of cities right now are not in a position to be able to spend extra money on that kind of infrastructure. So if that leaves us in a situation that we need to tack our sails, it would be really useful to have that information before.
Yep.
You just 1 second for, is it on this subject or on something else?
It's on this subject.
Then please.
No, I just had a question because I was looking at our master facility plan timeline, and it looks like the rural renewal initiative is supposed to be starting at some point. I just wondered, is this a reason to consider moving that up on the schedule and doing a full study of our rural, quote, rural libraries? You know, do we have other buildings or other concerns that?
We do, but we don't have funding for those because the Capital Library Master Plan was only partially funded. And so the two that the library board has looked at is Spring Hill and DeSoto because we own those buildings. Edgerton wasn't included in that. We've approached the city, this is a multiple year project, we've approached the city about correcting these issues over a period of time. We didn't feel entirely comfortable with putting large amounts of money into a building that we didn't own. Until we have really thought that through, we really felt that was the responsibility of the landlord. But we are happy to work in the partnership, but we still have to work within the financial constraints of a partially funded Capital Library Master Plan. And those dollars presently, and if they have been earmarked completely for the two other projects, the Blue Valley and the Prairie Village, and those two expenditures will maximize the mill levy, and we'll be into a period of just paying off that debt.
Thank you, I appreciate it. At some point, it might be interesting to get some kind of statistics on the use of the, I'm going to call rural libraries, because I don't know, are they at capacity, or is the space adequate at this point in time? I have no idea. I just
Yep.
might be interesting to look at that.
Yeah, I think we definitely can come up with those statistics, and the sizes of the libraries based on the population that we serve, and so we'll be able to get you answers to if they're appropriately sized or not. And I think with the Rural Renewal Initiative, that's part of what that study is going to look. It just doesn't include Edgerton in that study today. Yep.
If we could then maybe do just a quick pass, obviously not to the depth of the Rural Renewal Initiative, but if we're going to end up talking about Edgerton and kind of what's going on there, if we could at least have a overview of what the population is, what our census is in terms of door count and usage, just so we have a vague idea at least if we need to alter our priorities as we talk about this, because that's kind of one of the things that we do every year is that we do this, and if we have a situation that is more pressing, then we may need to reconsider what our priorities are.
Yep.
As we discuss that. So it basically is much information going into the retreat about Edgerton and its environs would probably give us at least a good starting place for that discussion for our retreat.
What we'll do is probably create a kind of a number of areas that you've kind of outlined today, see if there are other areas, and then we'll provide the information to those.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, information that they would like to hear about that going into our retreat? Okay, thank you. And then Deb and Patty, I have just an admin update for the minutes. I did in fact get apologies from Fabian Shepard, our missing board member. I just did not see that when I spoke. Then I got a ding on my phone. So he did in fact send his apologies that there was a critical issue at work and he could not step away from that. So hope nobody has any more emergencies or anything going on home and everybody can just go home and have dinner.
And we'll make the correction on the minutes reflecting back from the previous minutes, so those will be documented.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that means we are on to our consent agenda, which I would entertain a motion, please.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
And I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the consideration of approval of the Johnson County Library Board of Directors. ... So, do you have a briefing sheet for that, Sean, that you would like to go through? Okay, we talked about it earlier in Andy's situation. The actual motion is there. Does anybody have any comments or questions of concerns about what is basically a required administrative step? If you don't, we can just do a motion and move on. If we don't have to talk about everything in detail, so it's okay.
I move to approve the Johnson County Library Board of Directors to exceed the revenue neutral rate in the levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Library Taxing District for fiscal year 2022.
Fantastic. I would take a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And we do not have any other business, I believe, so I would take a motion to adjourn, unless y'all just want to sit here for a while longer.
I move the Library Board of Directors adjourn.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? See you guys next time. Thank you very much for all of your work.